We have you down representing Crime Prevention Research Center against the bill. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Please proceed.
So I think the bill will have a lot of unintended consequences. Let's say a woman, a stalker, threatens a female friend of yours. She asks you if you can borrow your handgun. She's trained and has no criminal record. Should you lend her the gun? In this case, you're going to face criminal charges. Other states that have these universal background checks at least even have an exception for imminent danger. There's no imminent danger exception here. Even I assume the lawyers here know that that's an extremely limited one. The person actually has to be threatening right at that point. So you have your Boy Scouts going on their annual shooting trip for their merit badges. The Scoutmaster asks you if he can borrow a shotgun. If you lend him the shotgun by this bill, you would be facing criminal charges. Those are just a couple of the hidden consequences, I think, that are facing this. We heard that 86% of people support this. We've done our own survey that shows 86% support it. If, in fact, you just phrases, do you support background checks on all sales and transfers? The problem is if you just bring up one or two of these examples, you end up having more people oppose it than support these laws. There are lots of problems with these background checks that I don't think most people understand. We keep on hearing that there are 4 million dangerous, prohibited people that have been stopped from buying guns because of background checks. That's false. What you should say is there have been 4 million initial denials, and about 99% of those are mistakes. It's one thing to stop a felon from buying a gun. It's another thing to stop someone simply because they have a roughly phonetically similar name and similar birthday to a felon. And the discrimination overwhelmingly occurs against minority males, black males and Hispanic males. People tend to have names similar to others in their racial groups. Hispanics have names similar to other Hispanics. Blacks tend to have names similar to other blacks. 34% of black males in the United States have felony records. For Hispanics, it's 18%. For whites, it's 6%. For Asians, it's 3%. You can see why you'd have much more confusion and errors among black males and Hispanic males. The error rate for black males is more than 3 times their share of the population. Why should 4 million people be denied being able to buy guns through no mistakes on their part, but simply because the federal government's unable to run the background check system? If private companies had an error rate 100th the error rate that the federal government has, under federal law, they'd be sued out of existence. There's a simple fix, and that is just have the federal government have to meet the same standards for doing background checks that private companies have to meet. I could go on to the costs and other things, but there are many parts of these things that discriminate against the people who need guns the most for protection. The people who are most likely victims of violent crime, and that overwhelmingly tends to be poor blacks who live in high-crime urban areas.
Members, any questions? Yeah, Representative Durazio.
Can you further explain how the background check system discriminates against the poor? And if there is a simple fix,
Yes.
how would you do it?
Well, there's basically 2 types of issues here. One is just the error rate in the background check system. All you have to do is have the federal government meet the same standards for doing background checks that private companies have to meet. Second issue is the cost. You know, when you have a background check, when you're buying a new gun, you don't see the cost of the background checks. It's not like a sales tax that gets added on top of it. So if we lived in Washington, D.C., and you're going to go, and I'm going to transfer you a gun, you have to pay $125 for doing that. It varies in different places. In parts of New York, it can be up to $250. In places like Oregon, you can find it for as low as $55 to $60. That's there. But here's the problem, and that is, let's say you believe background checks are good. Don't you want to encourage people to go and do the background checks? How is making them effectively have to pay this big fee to do what you want them to do? Do we tax people to encourage them to do things that we want them to do? If anything, you would subsidize them. You would pay for it out of general revenue rather than making the people who are going out of their way to obey the law having to pay these fees. The second thing is, if you believe it benefits people, you believe it benefits everybody. And as an economist, I would say whoever benefits should be the ones who pay for it. Why make the law-abiding individual who's going out of their way to obey the law have to bear the entire cost of going and doing this thing that you say is producing benefits for everybody? He's not going to get the whole benefits in terms of reduced crime that's there. And so for those things, I would say pay for it out of general revenue. If you really believe that these background checks reduce crime, and I have to confess I'm very skeptical that they do, but if you really believe it, pay for it out of general revenue. Don't make the person who you're trying to encourage to go and do this have to bear the full cost of it.
Members, any other questions? All right, thank you, sir.